Why should I not laugh? No reason not to laugh, so I'm laughing.
And you're a funny guy, Roland. Despite everything you say, you tell the funniest jokes. I mean, they're unintentional, but I mean, it's fun.
Yeah, well,
Unintentional. That was good. I love it.
That was Canadian friendliness for Roland is an idiot, but somebody take away his microphone. Right?
No, nobody take away his microphone. Let him keep talking.
Welcome to the What's Your Baseline podcast. In this show, we talk about our experiences and lessons learned in enterprise architecture and business process management. What's Your Baseline is designed to be for everyone. Newbies who are just getting started with these topics, organizations who want to improve their EA and BPM groups and the value they get from it, as well as practitioners who want to get a different perspective and care about the discipline.
Each episode will tackle different key topics, providing context, background, best practices, and stories from the road, inviting you to learn from our challenges and successes, and demonstrating key tools to help you set up your practice and get the most out of it.
I'm your host, Roland Wolt, and I'm joined today by my co-host, J.M. Erlinson.
Hey, JM, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Roland. It is bright and sunny in Toronto, despite the fact that it's getting a little bit later in the fall. Man, I love it when we get to actually enjoy the foliage without freezing our butts off. How you doing, friend?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I like the freezing our butts off stuff, but hey, I say bonjour from France this week, you know.
Bonjour,
so I'm
comment ça va?
Yeah, not so sunny Rennes this week, so we got cloudy, overcast, and all that stuff. And by the way, it's almost getting dark at my time, but I'm happy to be on this show today, JM. So it's perfect. So
Wonderful.
Tell me a little bit about what you have planned for today.
Yes. It's funny. We talk back and forth, you and I, as two talking heads, both dudes, both sort of career consultants, and it's kind of a single demographic. I mean, obviously you and I have some wildly different experiences in life, but I recognize that there is a very diverse population of folks within our community. We tried very hard to include diverse voices, people from different backgrounds, different spaces, different cultural and connotations to where they come from. But one of the things we see a lot is a move towards diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it's kind of as a response to the fact that a lot of our industry is, frankly, like white dudes. And I think that's not representative of the population of people who actually work in the industry. And so part of what our efforts have been in season 3 is to include more of those diverse voices, and in particular, include more female voices, more women in this conversation, because not only are women a huge part of how we execute process in the world, they're also a huge part of what drives the improvement and the evolution of process. And to do that, we have included in today's conversation 2 fantastic women from the process excellence space to join us. So hello to Josèphe and Gabby.
Bonjour.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for helping to even out this podcast. I think that the old adage, the funny joke they say is that a group of white men are called a podcast of white men. Well, we'd like to maybe turn that a little bit on its head today.
And maybe that's also in addition to that, we not only have the 2 ladies in the call because they're nice ladies and it's fun to talk with them and all these type of things, but they also have little side projects. You know, one is a part of a group that runs an initiative called Women in Process Mining, and the other one has a little activity going on where she runs a podcast that's called Women in BPM. So we were super creative with titling this episode, and we just cut off all the rest and we just say, oh, the episode title is Women in Process. So welcome also from my side, you two. And I'd like to get started that the audience just learns a little bit about you. And since I'm looking at my screen, Gabi is on top of it. So without further ado, Gabi, tell us a little bit about you.
Okay, good. But first of all, thank you for being on the episode. Thank you for the invitation. And I'm really looking forward for, the next hour. But to talk a little bit about myself. So my name is Gabriela Galic. I'm a manager at Deloitte in the Center for Process Bionics. It's a very fun name, but what we actually do, we optimize processes with different technologies. For example, process modeling or AI or IPA, but also process mining. And I'm specialized in the field of process mining. I'm running process mining projects here in the US. So I'm also based out of New York City, but I'm actually Croatian and grew up in Germany, so a little bit from my background. And I'm doing process mining since 2016 now. And that's all from my side so far.
And we have a very sweet spot for people with German accents on this podcast.
I'm glad.
You're more than welcome
Awesome.
here. But speaking of accents, we also have another accent on our show. So the name gave it away a little bit. Josèphe, where are you from?
Well, I'm from France, and also thank you for inviting me. So my sweet spot is the French accent indeed. So I'm sure you can hear that. Well, some people sometimes tell me I've got a German, French, Netherlands accent. So I don't know. Maybe people
What?
can vote
No way.
afterwards.
No way. They should listen to the episode that we did with Caspar Jans. That's a Dutch accent.
right.
And we will have another Dutch guy in a future episode. So no, you don't sound anything at all like this.
I worry that the accent that I have in French, when I speak it, is the Quebecois accent, which is a very different version of French than the France French. I think there's a very specific time of divergence between the two of them. And I know you were recently in Canada, Josèphe, and you get to hear a little bit of that different version of French.
I love this version of French, but it sounds some kind of weird. That's true.
And then JM, on top of it, you have all those spelling errors when you write notes, like favorable with a U. Who does that?
Oh, yes, that's true. Spelling errors, perhaps the King's English, I think we call it now. I don't know anymore. It's a weird time for Canadians and the whole of the Commonwealth. Well, speaking of weird times, let's segue into your life experiences and things you've done in the past. So stuff that you've really enjoyed, stuff that has helped propel you here and give you that passion for process. And that's a combination, I'm assuming, of your educational background, your life experiences, your work experience. Let's start over with Josèphe. What brought you to process as a discipline, and what instilled within you that passion that you display, that you talk about on the daily with all the different stakeholders and anyone who will listen?
Oh, yeah. Thanks for the question. So, yeah, indeed, I'm passionate for processes. And you know what? It's since 2000, I was reflecting. I started in 2000 with ARIS and SAP. I was a consultant. And from that date, I was really passionate about processes. During my studies, it were more like business studies. I wanted to work in Europe. So it was France, Germany, UK. I didn't care. It's just something in business in Europe. And then I started that job and I discovered processes and these structures and these flows. And from that day, I never left the topic really. So that's the really funny thing.
Oh, right.
So that's why I can really say I'm passionate for processes, because I was a consultant on ARIS and SAP. So I was using the first interfaces between ARIS and SAP system. That was really funny. Then I was a product manager, product marketing, solution manager. So I think I did basically everything you can do around processes to end up, let's say, in the position that I'm having right now, which is leading the global ARIS product marketing activities and spreading this passion for processes everywhere around where I can. So yeah, indeed, from that perspective, it's a long time love story.
Yes, it seems like you came into this and learned what it was useful, what it was valuable for by doing. And I think that's something we see a lot of in people who are involved in process, who really believe in process platforms, is that they've used them. They've really felt the experience, in their hands and with their customers. And I wonder, Gabby, how did you come to process, honestly, or in a roundabout way, as a focus for you in your career?
Yeah, so it's funny that you say, Josèphe, and I understand totally that you're also passionate about this, because it was similar to for me as well, that from one day to another, I was just passionate about process mining. So I stumbled across process management in general during my university time. I studied finance information management. I did some internships also in process management, where we needed to model all these processes. But then we also had a course which was called BPM, right? And one part of it was process mining. And back then I said, I will never do anything with processes. It's so boring. I will not do it. Never. I will do something else. I don't know what, but I will do something else. And it's funny how everything changed, because upon some funny coincidences, I got to know the founder of of Celonis, which is one of the process mining software companies out there. But this was in 2015, so it was a very, very small startup. And then, I spoke to them, and they were so passionate about process mining. And then I was like, okay, maybe give it a try. And then I applied for an internship, and that's how I stumbled into this whole area of process mining, right, and embarked on this journey. And the funny thing is, I worked for this company for a year, and then afterwards I left and joined my first job at BMW after I finished my studies, and I did business intelligence, right, for accounts payable processes. So it's similar but different. And then after a year, realized, oh no, I cannot do it. It's just, I need to do process mining again because it's more exciting. You can see more results, you see more transparency. And that's how I joined Deloitte then, because Deloitte just started a new service offering and service line, which was helping customers to do process mining, to educate customers about process mining, and to implement process mining. And that's how I embarked on a journey of process mining.
It seems like consulting is a really good sort of hook into process mining, right? You're looking to use process-driven patterns and KPIs to understand how to improve.
Exactly.
Josèphe, you were part of that consulting arm as well, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the point. That's exciting because process mining is important indeed, but just simply processes. Because when I started with processes, I started with SAP and IT implementation, and processes were basically the only way to really discuss with the customers, to define their request, to define the real process, what we need to implement into the system. And that was, well, let's say not new at this time, but that was a different way of thinking. It was just like, not from the technical perspective, but from a process flow perspective. What does the business need? How do they work? How can we support with an IT system the business? And that's where processes were really useful from my point of view. And that's where I felt in love with them, because it was giving us some kind of a guideline to discuss and to prepare the implementations.
But maybe before we get into the weeds, about why and all these type of things, I would love you to talk a little bit about you as people, right? Because we want to give our audience a little bit of a look behind the scenes. Who are the people behind the microphone, right? Not that anyone cares about JM and I, so forget about that. But the guests are obviously the interesting people here on this show. So maybe, Gabi, maybe you can talk a little bit about you, what your hobbies are, what your bucket list items are, what you wish to accomplish or have accomplished already that people might want to know about you.
Okay, sure. Let's go. So where should I start? Let's start maybe with sports.
Good choice.
With sports. I actually do soul cycling. Basically, I don't know. Have you ever tried it out?
I've seen it potentially being tried out, and I was like, this looks very hard.
Hold on. For old people like me, what is it?
Exactly, what is it? So you go to a fitness, you don't do it at home. You go to a fitness class, basically, and you go there, and it's very dark. So it's one room. There are like 50 bicycles in there, super dark, very loud music, laser shows. And then you cycle to the music. For example, it can be hip hop, it can be R&B, it can be techno. It's very loud and heavy. And that's what you do for a 45-minute workout class. And it's very intense. Yes, you're right, Roland. Afterwards, you're dead for 2 days.
I'd rather ride my motorcycle in the pure nature and all these things, or walk the dog. Okay. So thank you. But now I learned something.
A little less exercise on the riding your motorcycle, though. You're having the engine do the work for you.
Hey, I got 60-something horses that help,
I wonder if SoulCycle could capture the energy of the cycling and actually use it to power something. It feels like there's so much energy being output by the humans. I don't know, you could probably generate a few kilowatt hours of power,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of energy in this room, exactly. But Roland, I understand you. This is just like, I don't go there, like, of course, every day. So I'm totally with you. I also love being outside, having long walks in the nature. So I totally get that, of course. But yeah, something else about myself, I love traveling. I will, especially now when I moved to the US last year, I was exploring a lot around the US. I love doing that as well. I love also posting on social media. Maybe some of you have seen or realized that. So this is also my kind of little hobby next to my job. And then, one of you asked about the bucket list. So I have a few things about the bucket list. The one thing is I want to go to Japan. I've never been to Japan.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. I'm fascinated by the food and the culture, and I just want to explore and experience that. So this is one thing. And the other thing, this is kind of a high goal. Let's see if this will be possible. But I would like to do a PhD. So because I'm fascinated, I love doing research. I love reading papers. I love creating concepts and theories. So that's something on my bucket list. So let's see what will happen.
Hey, Gabi, if you want to help, we're currently preparing the Gartner Magic Quadrant for process mining, and they send us a big pile of stuff. So if you love reading things, and I'm pretty sure Josèphe is in the same boat, if you love reading things, just come over here to Ren, that's all good. Help us.
Okay.
And if you ever need a recommendation on where to go in Japan, you know that I've got a saved list on my phone with, I think I'm up to like 70, 80 places that I've individually hand selected to go visit in Japan when I go back there. My wife and I try to go. Before times we used to go once or twice a year. So it's a place of great peace and serenity for me, a place of wonder and delicious food and culture that I wish to go back to very, very soon.
And JM can give you the location of every coffee vending machine that he encountered in the country. So
it's actually fun stat. There's one vending machine in Japan for every 22 human beings. So wherever you are in Japan, you will find many, many jihanki, as they're called, or vending machines with some really delicious, sometimes fresh soups and food, but always good bottled drinks. So many things I can talk about for Japan.
Love it. Okay.
But let's not get derailed on this one.
Next
this could be a whole podcast about the traveling of Japan as a process person who doesn't talk at all about process. Meanwhile, let's talk about Josèphe. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a sort of behind the curtain on who Josèphe is as a person, your bucket list items, your hobbies, your interests, besides just the process you so dearly love.
And JM, sit tight, because I'm stalking her on Instagram, and she's doing really dangerous stuff,
Sorry to look.
Being on that's too easy, but being on a little piece of cloth with strings, and thousands of feet under her without anything, that's good, I broke my ankle when I tried to parachute, and that was no fun. I hope you're doing better than I do.
Well, let's see. But that's exactly the point. So if you're stalking me on Instagram, you know it also. I think my profile states I have 1,000 lives. And I guess it's true, because I'm so passionate for everything. And my bucket list, I start with that one, is basically doing something new every day. And I guess I'm on it. So I'm learning as much as I can, whether in the private or in the business life. But to start with the sports or the hobbies, as you started, it's very different, Gabriela. That's so funny, because I am so passionate, so I have so much energy. I would never survive this cycling thing. So that's why I'm doing Ashtanga yoga, trekking, climbing. So I need to go back to nature to focus back on myself. So to get my energy for myself. So that's very different, and that's exhausting too, but a different way. And that's why yoga, by the way, because everyone thinks yoga is just like doing Om. It's not. An Ashtanga yoga is really exhausting, but it looks quite somehow, and it looks very sporty, so I love that. And I said, being back to nature, the trekking, climbing, traveling the world. So I started very, very late to travel the world. So I think my first travel to the States was 12 years ago, something like this. But since then, I can't stop. So I really can't stop. So I did road trips in Australia, in Canada, in Scandinavia. And the funny thing is, I always take my 2 kids with me. So that's make it even more challenging. And I see they learned that and they are becoming world citizens. So I'm quite happy about this one. I'm also very active on social media in general. That's true. But the funny thing on me is that I have several profiles. So I have a splitted personality, obviously. So I have the business one. I have the food blogger one. I have the traveling one. I have the handstand all over the world woman one. So I'm doing handstand in front of every famous location I travel. And I also have one for my private business, which is selling local products from the greater region of Saarland-Lux, where I live. And I sell food, I sell drinks, and I love to promote that too. So I guess that's it. I know what you said, Roland.
Well, here's the thing. Like, if you haven't, we're going to put all the show notes, by the way. Quick pitch for
you can cut.
For sure.
But you're not going to cut any of this, because the truth is that Josèphe has a business that has so many items available that look incredibly delicious that I'll occasionally come across it and just start salivating or start envisioning the beautiful sights and smells of the products and think to myself, it's like I need to have these items in my home, but I don't order them because I'm an idiot.
No, Jam, wrong approach. We're looking for samples. I cannot make an assessment if it's good or bad, until I've tested it,
I see. Roland's
Josèphe, we're going to give
angling.
you our addresses after this.
No problem.
This recording.
And you're very near to me right now, Roland, so I can send you something right now where you're located today, and then you can take them to your home.
I will be in Munich and in Vienna over the weekend, so I do a little mini Europe trip this week.
Then there's a way to find that.
Yeah, quick pitch, of course, if you're enjoying the episode, you can enjoy it even more with some delicious products from the Saar region. That would go along with the what's your baseline on women in process. But actually, let's talk about women in process. How about we actually get to the topic at hand today? Because it's really good to get to meet you and introduce who you are to our listeners. But let's talk about the very first topic of just in general process. And so I know there are two sides of the coin of process. We talk about that a lot. The process mining and process management as disciplines. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the approach to that duality, how you see process mining versus process management, process modeling, process improvement, and how those two interact, and what your experiences have been in both those fields as a connected field and as bringing that as a value proposition to your stakeholders.
Yeah, sure. So as I said, even within Deloitte or my job, which I'm currently doing, we're not only doing process mining, right? Our department is called Center for Process Bionics, which basically saying, we're doing business process management and ops transformations, operational transformations, but with technology, right? So this technology is kind of the enabler for better processes, faster processes, and higher ROIs. So, and that's why I think to answer your question, how everything is kind of related, or is everything related? Absolutely, right? I think kind of BPM is like the overall business process management is kind of the overall headline or kind of the bucket, and then with this you can do different things, as I said, like for example process modeling, right? You start with process modeling because you've never modeled your processes, right? So far I had another client and it's really 2022, right? We need to admit, and there's so many companies out there who don't have modeled their processes, and I was kind of a little bit shocked because I thought like, oh yeah, cool, I'm doing process mining, let's get this data and analyze the process. But no, that's too far away for them. So I think so the first step I think is definitely understanding how your process should look like, right? And create a process model. And then you can talk about the future state design, right? How you remodel your process. And the next step, you can definitely also apply process mining to see, okay, it's nice to have kind of a vision or how the process should look like, but how does it actually run through your system is kind of what process mining brings more light into the dark.
Yeah, I like the idea of bringing light into the dark. That is a great way of putting it. I like how you're using data to drive transformation decisions. It sounds like your North Star. Actually, that's a question for you. It sounds like you're using data as a North Star, but how do you reconcile when stakeholders are having put a differential weight on data versus best practices versus standards versus industry benchmarks? What do you see as the interaction between those and the evidence that actually comes back from the process mining efforts?
The North Star is basically, it's not just around the data, it's just the data gives us just a new way how to analyze the processes, right? But I think basically the North Star is to improve your business at the end, right? Or to accelerate your numbers, or to shrink your costs. So this is where we are all kind of heading to, and processes are kind of the heart of every organization, right? Everything is stick together. Without a process, our organization couldn't even exist. So it's kind of the baseline for everything. And I think process mining helps you, of course, to analyze your reality based on the data. And you can really see with all the clients we have or the companies that, first of all, they're kind of very hesitant, right, around the data. Do we have the right data? Is the data going to give me everything which I want to see at the end, right? But at the end, it always paid out that we have everything what we need to do with the data we have, right? In general, I can say that despite any kind of discrepancies in the beginning, or people will say, okay, I don't know if everything what I have in my data is valuable. We can definitely prove that it is, because there's a lot of out there. Yeah. The only thing I have to say is, of course, it depends. You can do only process mining if you have the data. So if you do a lot of processes just based on tasks or very manually, you of course can do task mining, which is another technology. But this is kind of one of the pitfalls we typically also see.
So yeah, that's really interesting. But obviously, process mining is one way, and you mentioned it, Gabi, in the process lifecycle, which we spoke about in the past as well. But I think what you see is, or experience and describe, is more also like a cultural phenomenon. Here in the United States, it's very much, oh yeah, let's hop in our pickup truck and drive to the home improvement store and buy 2x4s and let's hammer that house together. Right. Versus in Europe, and Josèphe, maybe you can talk about that a little bit, there's obviously a different attitude. And I think what we see in our industry is more success, if you will, with organizations who follow that approach of capturing their business processes and improving their business processes and use them as blueprinting for their system implementations and whatnot. And then use process mining for measuring how those processes actually work in reality. Or am I completely off, Josèphe?
No, it's completely true, because I do see the same like you see, Gabriela. Of course, processes are at the heart of the organization. Without processes, no organization, no possibly company that can survive. But the funny thing is, really, indeed, we see two different groups. It's really you have the people or the industries or the regions that are really starting fact-based. So with process mining as an analysis, they want to measure first and then proceed. And you have the other way around, where you start interviewing, asking, modeling, planning the processes, and then measure. And what I do see right now in the project that we have is that, both theories and both ways are right. So I think both have their good reasons to be there on the market, and they at some point always meet themselves in the middle, because it's really two sides of the coin. So you need to analyze. If you do it first or not, that's a decision that the company is taking. And you need to define, and you need to roll that out. And for that, you need something else than just process mining, because you can analyze, you can plan the perfect processes, but you need your employees to go for that and to really support the new ways of working. But then in turn, you still need process mining to check if it's working. So you want to check if it's compliant. So that's why I really love the fact that we say, okay, process mining and process modeling are some kind of two sides of the coin. That's true. But I use a new expression. I think that's fully right. It's 3 peas in a pot. So you need process mining, you need process modeling, but without risk and compliance, no way, because you want to check that you are compliant with regulation. You want to check that your processes run the exact way they should, so that you are really heading for this transformation, operational excellence, and all kind of goals that you may have with this continuous process improvement. So I now have a third side to this coin, I must admit.
Well, I think there's even more, Josèphe, when you think about this, and this goes into the tribes within BPM. You have the lean people, and I felt a little bit of resistance by them, because when you think about process mining, it's more data driven. You take out the human aspect, and little hint, we're going to have a conversation about human-centered BPM in the very near future, who are following this treat versus the other path is, let's look at the data and show me this, or all those other things, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. You need to have all those aspects because you need to create SOPs and you need to roll it out and support the org change management and all those things in a proper process lifecycle. I'm 100% with you.
And change management, and really picking up the people is really important. Of course, facts are right and are supporting you, but you need to do a lot more than just taking a look at the figures and at what the systems are telling you, because then you're going to get into resistance and it's not going to work in the end. So fully agreed on that. Yeah.
Everyone is really trying to address complexity, and they're approaching it from their different perspectives. Some are relying on best practice knowledge and data. Some are relying on interviews and being able to sort of align with strategy, align with risk and compliance. People are trying to address the complexity that is an enterprise landscape. That could be capabilities, that could be applications, that could be processes, that could be people, but it's all interconnected. And the massive amount of relationship, the exponential nature of data and of interconnected data means they're just trying to take little bites off the elephant, and they're doing their best, but just from different perspectives, right? And I think that's a really good point for us to just take a quick break here. I know there's a lot of conversation to go here on sort of the how we get it done, how you've seen it be successful, how you choose to approach process and process transformation and process mining transformation. But for a lot of our viewers, we'd love to just give you a couple of moments to think about things, listen to some beautiful music by our good friend Jeremy Voltz, and we'll come back in our second section a little bit more on the how.
And welcome back to the second segment of our show. As you know, we always follow the structure of the why and the how. And we like to muddy the waters a little bit, because one thing that we have spoken about was obviously our two guests' intentions, how they got into process and process mining. But it's obviously important, why did they start the initiatives that they're spearheading here? So maybe I'll start with Josèphe. What was your motivation for building up a community for women?
Mm-hmm. That's a good question. Thanks for that. And as we were just talking about data, I think I will start with some statistics, because that's what's good, frightening, whatever you call that. If we look at women in tech, women in IT, we see that in 1985, 37% of the US bachelors in computer science were women. That's a good percentage, right? In 2021, we see that only 18% of the employees in the IT sectors are female. So that's a Eurostat statistic, but it shows that there is a big gap between the studies and between the reality in tech, in science, in IT. Yeah. So and that's what was really striking me, because this has improved. I mean, I belong to the women that do their career in that area, and I see it improve. I see there are a lot of new women coming in. We have a lot of women leaders. I see also, I mean, that was the reason why I started with that, and I'm really eager to learn about your initiative, Gabriela, is that I saw, okay, there are not a lot of women, but in the business process management area, I see a lot of women. I see a lot of women leading these business process improvement project, this excellence, this transformation project. They have leading roles. They are setting up that for their companies. They are really enabling these kind of projects. And I thought, okay, we have a gap in gender. I have a lot of women in my area. So that's just what I want to start talking with them and gain knowledge about the experience and share that with everyone else. And Gabriela, that's what I just meant. How was it for you? How did you start on your Women in Process Mining initiative?
Yeah, so I had the same motivation, because I also looked at the numbers, and I loved your numbers. I didn't see that, but I saw similar numbers where it said like, okay, only around 20% of the women in working in tech or IT jobs are women. So we're underrepresented. And I was a little bit shocked because, as I also said for the processes, but it's 2022, right? And I thought we're already good, but we aren't, right? There's a long way to go. And then this was the one thing, right? Just looking at the statistics. And the other thing was, I also realized for myself, I need more female role models. Because when I have a female role model for myself, even in my job, I'm more motivated. I'm inspired, right? I have other goals, and it's just something different if I can look up to somebody who is similar to me, myself, for example. And I think that would support other women as well. So this was kind of the second thing, looking at we need more role models in business process management, and more women, of course, then. And then the third part, I mean, there were a lot of reasons why I started this last year, because when you look at all the tech giants, all the founders or CEOs, most of them are also men, right? Look at Meta or Tesla or Apple. It doesn't matter. A lot of them are men. And then another thing is also, there's so many initiatives out there. We have women in AI, we have women in tech, we have women in BPM, right? There are so many women initiatives out there which are so successful. And I was thinking, there's none initiative which is women in process mining. And then I said, okay, let's do this. I will found it myself. And these are honestly, all these, I think it was like 4 or 5 points I just explained, all led to this point where I said, okay, I need to found with other members, of course, I'm not the only one, initiative for women in process mining. Yeah.
So tell us then, I mean, this sounds like you've got not only the stats, but you've got a real purpose behind what you're doing. Tell us, what does it look like? So, first and foremost, what do you have right now? What does the community look like? And then secondly, where do you see that going? What's the natural evolution of women in process mining, women in process, that would lead to sort of closing that gap? And how do you see that evolution being driven by you or those you inspire?
Yeah, sure. So basically, as I said, we just started this a couple weeks or months ago, and I had this idea last December. So it's a pretty new initiative. And what we do, we want to support all girls and women who work, study, or research in the field of process mining, right? And kind of create a community, right? They can have a network or build themselves a network where they can learn from each other. So this is kind of the overall vision and goal of this community. And what we established already this year are, for example, kind of events where we have a speaker or a panel discussion from great leaders in the field of process mining, which you can attend and listen to what they have to say exactly. And the other thing which we just launched is also a mentorship program, right, where we can encourage young females, but also experienced leaders to interact with each other, to learn from each other, and to develop their careers. So this is something currently we have right now. We have kind of the events, and we launched the mentorship. And then to answer your question where we want to go with that, and I think Roland also mentioned it before, so we have, of course, we want to, for example, do more collaboration with other initiatives, or maybe with you as well, Josèphe. We need to talk about this after our recording. So how can we interact with other initiatives, right? Women in BPM or women in AI, women in tech, to grow together faster, right? But also with corporates, right? Or universities. So I see myself, or our initiative Women in Process Mining, working with universities together, right, to establish maybe a cool course or a class for women in computer science, where they need to do a case, but this is kind of maybe supported by the Women in Process Mining initiative, right, or also with other companies. So I think the possibilities where this could grow are very big, and but yeah, that's where we are right now.
Which is very interesting, because obviously, like you said, it's the underrepresentation that doesn't make sense, because I think we see a lot of old boys club. Our little podcast is trying to break this, even though JM is the youngster here. But anyways, so I think it's important that you come up and open it more to other people. And then in this case, that girls see, oh yeah, this is a path that I can take as a career path. And when I'm grown up, well, I want to do the same thing. But to come back to maybe the vision, Josèphe, what's the vision that you have in your initiative besides producing entertainment podcast episodes?
That's really, it's not only entertainment. So thanks for asking. That's very different. So it was indeed also last year, December. That's really funny, Gabriela. We should have met before. I really made that note. Okay, we don't have enough women. I see a potential, and I really want to inspire the new generation. So your role model wording is exactly what I had in my mind, because, well, I'm a little bit more than 40. I see my younger generation, and I just thought, okay, I just want to tell them story. I just want them to learn about this journey, that they get inspired, that they can see, okay, you can just do it. Believe in yourself, do it, and learn from the other ones. So that was really my idea. So as of now, it's not a community, not a mentorship. It's really an informal series of, women talking about their stories, giving them a voice, letting them a way to give some hints, some pitfalls, some advices to other people, so that we can share all together. And that's my only goal. And the funny thing is, I have another series. So I'm doing also a Passion for Processes series, which is not only intended at women, it's just intended at everyone around processes, let's say. And I get requests for that, but I think I get triple the number of requests for the women in BPM. So I see, it's getting some kind of heat, and everyone is talking about it. And women from customers, from partners, wherever they come from, they just reach out and say, "Oh, I want to join." And they have no specific reason for that. They just want to join, and they just want also to share their voice and their stories. And I think that is interesting. So as of now, it's really my goal. And of course, the same for me. I'm really happy to see what I can do with other initiatives, because process mining and BPM, well, it belongs together anyhow. So I think there's a big way forward for the two of us and many others.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to see how your collaboration will go. But I also have to support you, Josèphe. I'm listening to the Women in BPM podcast, not because I'm a middle-aged woman. I think I don't qualify for this, but I like what I hear. I like to listen to the experience that those members of our community share, right? And it's not like, which some people might think like a self-help organization and whatnot, we just cry together and all those things. It's quite the opposite. These are people who are right in the middle of their life, right in the middle of their job, and who encounter the same situation that everyone else does. I think the answer, how they react to those situations, that might be a little bit different. When you think about very sensitive people like me who just shrug things off and say, "Oh, go away, I don't want to talk to you," right? I think the female answer is a little bit different. Am I right, or am I completely mistaken in that observation?
Yeah, and that's exactly. I love what you just said, because this is always the challenge when I do this series, because yes, it may be different, and at the same time, I see a lot of the key learnings that they had on how to deal with management, how to deal with doing several things at the same time. Well, it could be a woman answer. Mm-hmm. But in many cases, it's not at all. It's just a diversity and a profile person. Are you sensitive? Are you someone who takes care for the others? Are you looking at, emotions, change management, or you don't care? And I think that's more or less that. And I hear from a lot of men, like you just said, where I also like to listen to that, because also I learn from that, whether I'm a man or a woman in the end. So yeah, it's different, but in the end, not that much.
Uplifting these kind of role models, this kind of example to follow, even though there's plenty of them out there. I think we all know that a lot of the history of technology has been unfortunately written by men who really wanted to only talk about men's achievements, which is just a bias and a falsehood. So I'm really glad you're helping to correct that, helping to bring things to the fore. My question is, if you're looking for people, what is somebody self-identifying as a person who could become part of your community? What do they look like? What stage of their career are they in? What sort of things should our listeners look to know that it's right for them to join you?
Yeah. So, regarding the participants or the people who are interested, basically, as I said, it could be somebody who is looking to start studying, right, in a really young age, who's just finished with school, who are interested in IT in general, who would seek to learn more about process mining, or to get a mentor, or just, to have more answers to the fascinating world of working and our jobs. So honestly, really early age. Then, of course, students who are interested in process mining, who already do process mining, who know what it is, but also people who don't know what it is, right? So they can explore it more and learn it. So as we talked about it, right? I didn't know that I would ever work in process mining, because I said I will never do processes. So I, of course, somebody who is just interested to learn more about that. Then, of course, women and girls who just started with their jobs, or in process mining, of course, or want to do something else maybe. And of course, I would love to have also a lot of leaders, like very experienced leaders in the field of process mining, who have done like 20 years track record of process management, right, or organizational redesign, or process excellence. I think these were also good participants for our community, because I think they can bring a lot of value to the community. They have a great network. They can support younger people, women. And so that's basically who we're looking for, we can help with. Yeah.
That's good to hear. And Josèphe, is that similar for you? Like what sorts of people are you looking for, besides as people identifying as women? That makes, that's a unifying characteristic.
Yeah, well.
But if somebody identifies as a woman, how do they know it's time to get in touch?
Well, I think they feel that's different. So I would say what you just depicted, Gabriela, is more the audience that I have for my Women in BPM series. And as of now, the people I do have in this series are women, but maybe I'm going to extend that. I'm not sure about it. Just a little bit of a spoiler for everyone here. Just people that have a story to share around business process management. And I think that's it. So it's really about having a story to share, wanting to inspire and to encourage other people. And that's as of now my only target group, let's say.
And I think a first good step, this is the thought that I had, is if you share, Josèphe, if you share your guest list with Gabriela, she gets the leaders that she wants to have on her events. So maybe you think about this.
Of course.
I'm fully aware that both of your initiatives are relatively new, like 9 months-ish, like a little bit more. But have you had some feedback that you received from your audience? So maybe, Gabriela, we'll start with you, when you have your events or you launch your website that I saw and all these things. What was the feedback that you received from people that you knew, and maybe more importantly, from people that you didn't know before, and how many people have reached out to you and gave you feedback?
So in general, we received very good feedback, which I'm very happy about it. So it was different, of course, people in my network or even at Deloitte, because I'm doing this outside of Deloitte, right? They said it's a great thing what I'm doing, and also on LinkedIn, strangers reached out to strangers. It sounds so hard, but people reached out to me, which I don't know, and saying that they think that this is a great initiative, that they we, the initiative and the board member, even inspired them, right, to think ahead or to create something new which didn't exist before. So this was quite nice, and that's what I think gets you going. If you receive good feedback from what you do, I think probably for the same for you and your podcast, right? You're motivated for the new episode, and I like it and I love it. That's very great to see how the network reacts to it. And then of course we have a lot of members as well, and you can see it also in the participation that they're looking forward to the next event. They have ideas. We have also so many young women who would like to be part of this initiative, but from kind of the organizational part side, right? They want to be part of the founding team or create a new branch or be responsible for different things. So which is very great. I love it. So this is how we have been perceived so far in the market, which is very nice.
That sounds like some amazing feedback and a great start to the initiative. I'm really glad to hear that it's so successful so far, and it looks like it's going to keep growing and growing. Given what you've seen so far, Josèphe, tell me about how things have gone for you. How have you gotten feedback? What are your plans to take that feedback and use it to grow the whole offering you have to your community?
Yeah, that's a little bit different as usual. It's similar, different in these two women in something. So I think first of all, it brings a lot of visibility for women in BPM in general. So from that perspective, I get a lot of feedback also internally. So I guess in each and every big companies, there's a women initiative to support women diversity. So that's where some people reached out to me. I didn't expect them to do that. So this kind of, networking, growing, with other people together. I think that's really the point. So where they try to push us in the women in tech area to reuse what we do for other initiatives, because they do think that is really bringing things forward. So I think this is the first point. And well, the most cutest thing I ever had on that is really, really young women that just started with us in our area at customer partners or within my company. And they send you so cute emails with, now I believe in that, and I love your story, and I learned from Veronica this, I learned from this person that, and now I feel empowered, and I see I have a role to play. Just this sentence, I have a role to play, and there's hope for me. It's like, okay, I'm going to proceed with that, because it's really sharing, encouraging, and sharing our stories. And sometimes maybe the last thing is that you get unexpected support, really, because people want this initiative to work out, to be successful, and where people tell you that maybe I'm going to promote that, I'm going to do that for you, and you don't ask everything. People just do it because they love the idea, and that's this kind of feedback, being inspired and supporting without anything else, is just like what I love and what passionates me.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. And I was thinking about what you said how to spread it. And Gabriela, you mentioned it as well. I'm following, if you will, a designer, a Swiss lady who lives in New York, and she had the idea to do some morning talks. She called it Creative Mornings. And this thing franchised, obviously free of charge and whatnot, to I don't know how many dozens different cities all over the world, where people said, that's a great idea. Let's start a chapter and do that once a month, and get some sponsors who bring coffee and whatever, right? And have someone talk about that topic and use then those occasions for the networking effect, right? So we'll put a link in the show notes. It has nothing to do with BPM, but I think the point is, it takes a little spark and you really create a big impact. Having that we're getting close to the hour, and JM is already aware of the time, but I do have one question that I want to ask both of you. So the first one is, well, what does it take to build a community, right? And based on that, what you've done and shared your experiences in the behind the scenes, what will be the next steps that you intend to do, or what do you wish for your community? And maybe, Gabriela, we start with you again, and then Josèphe, you take over.
Yeah, sure. So what does it take? First of all, a lot of time. I'm honest with you. So first of all, I was alone, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do everything by my own. And what I also did, I applied for a trademark right here in the US, because I said, okay, let's build something new. Let's apply for a trademark. There's a whole process. I want to do a website, and I was searching for a developer to do my website. And this all happened in the most stressful project I had, I think, in my entire consulting life this year. So honestly, my whole weekends were just for Women in Process Mining, the community, and building it up, and creating everything what you need to do. And so that's what you need to do in the beginning, right? Just work hard, invest a lot of time. But I have to say, I could never have done this alone. I was alone in the beginning, but then I reached what I did. And maybe some of you know, I put Women in Process Mining as a headline on my LinkedIn profile. And what happened, somebody reached out to me, which is now one of our co-founders, right, Christine. And she said, oh my gosh, Gabby, I had the same idea. What are you doing with Women in Process Mining? And then she had the same idea. And I said, okay, we need to meet. And we need to do this together. And that's how we grow, actually, at the end. And that's how we could launch this entire initiative, because we said, okay, I'm going to take care of the website, the social media, and the mentorship, right, program. And she's going to take lead in the events. And she has a much bigger network than I do. So, and that's what I want to say. So what does it take? I think doing it alone is always hard. So you need your network, and you need to group and at least 2 or 3 people, and then it's just easier to found something.
And I definitely can confirm that. Me having that idea for this podcast and building the website and getting JM on board was very, very helpful. And as we all know, he makes us sound good, cutting out all the silly parts and tweak the sound. So yes, absolutely.
Here's the thing: it's also great when you find other people who like your idea. I think the best ideas are ones where everyone who sees them says, "Oh, obviously that should be a thing." Oh yeah, I also want that. Yeah, I wish this was my idea, and it definitely should be there. So I should join it because this is a necessary thing. Like the most obvious ideas that haven't been done yet are the best ideas, and of course this one seems like it didn't happen until it came to you, and then once you brought it into the world, everyone around you saw, of course, yes, absolutely, let's join in. It's incredible, and that means you're getting a lot of traction because it feels natural. Of course, this kind of thing should exist. Of course, this should be an opportunity for people. And as somebody who's in the industry, I'm sure people are jumping on board to say, yeah, I want to be part of this thing that absolutely should be a staple. And I'm assuming, Josèphe, it's a similar thing for you. You're getting all this support from the organization. You get people across industry saying, yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can only confirm, like you all said, it's loads of time. And of course, I have a lot of plan and how I can extend and what we can do next, podcasts, real podcasts, and all that kind of stuff. But to make it really short, I think it's about giving and taking. So what you give, you will get it back. And I like this quote. You probably know that is: do not ask yourself what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And that's basically just the idea that we should all keep in mind with this activity. I was not asking myself what someone else can be doing for me. It's just I was asking myself, what can I do for my fellow BPM people? And I just did it. And then it comes back. That's it.
Well, that's a really beautiful sentiment. And I think that means you're serving a community rather than trying to be served by them. And I think that some of the most powerful leaders I've looked up to, and I'm assuming it's the same sort of thing for you, are people who themselves are beholden to their communities first and foremost, not for power's sake, but to make a space and open a space up where people can really thrive, who can be successful, and who can find happiness and satisfaction in their lives. And I think that's a really excellent note to end this little section of the podcast on. We're going to take another quick break before we come back with our final thoughts, conclusions, and some next steps, some calls to action to everyone out there, all people who are women identifying, who'd like to be part of these amazing communities. We'll leave you for a second and come back with that final thoughts and conclusions.
All right. Welcome back, dear listeners, to the last segment of the show. And I think we want to be a little bit forward-looking here. And I'd like to open the floor for our two guests, obviously, to talk about what they would give as advice to other women, to other girls who think they want to go into their direction, that you obviously paved the way for them. And obviously, I would also ask you to give us some hints where we can find you, websites, LinkedIn, and all that wonderful podcast stuff and all these things. So for this time, Josèphe, I'd like to start with you. So what is your advice and where can we find you?
So the advice for other women in our area would be really, first, be yourself, Being something different will never work, never have worked, and will never work in future. So just be yourself, believe in yourself, and just do it. And that works. See the women in BPM or the women in process mining. Just believe in what you are and what you do, and everything is going to work out around that. So that's as simple as that. For your other question, where can they reach out and how to get in touch with me? So I have a profile on LinkedIn. That's very easy. So just contact me on LinkedIn. You find me there. And if you want to read and to watch a little bit more about these women in BPM, you have two solutions. Either you get to YouTube and you search for the Women in BPM playlist. You find that and you have the whole series there. Or you go to blog.softwareeg.com and there's a specific tag for Women in BPM. And there it's all listed with some correlated articles and also the link to the videos. As easy as that.
That's super easy, Josèphe. And obviously we will put all the links in the show notes that nobody needs to take notes while driving in the car. That's a little bit dangerous.
Please don't.
Yeah, please don't. Public service announcement.
Yeah, it's also good. You have searchable terms that you can just throw into YouTube, and bam, it kicks back out. I mean, listen, how much of your learning these days do you do via YouTube? Young people,
99%.
I don't consider myself young anymore, but most of my learning is LinkedIn videos, YouTube videos. But I read some books, but if you can just type in women at BPM, ding.
So Gabriela, what is your advice to your audience and to your followers and people who are very interested now in women in process mining? And the same question that I asked Josèphe, where can we find you?
So I would definitely say don't be shy, right? So I saw a lot of women also which are super shy. Ask your questions. Be brave, right? And kind of ask questions. I think if you're doing an internship, if you're studying, if you have your first job, I think being like silent is not the path forward. So I think I would definitely encourage you to speak up. And the second part is please support other women. So I think this is also very important that women support other women, as Josèphe and I are doing it, which is great, because only then we can really grow and establish something new. Yeah. So this would be based as what I would advise. And how can you find us? So we have a website, which is www.womaninprocessmining.com. Very straightforward. So you can find all the information about the community there and how to contact us. And then we have a LinkedIn page, which is also Woman in Process Mining. And then the third one, we have also a LinkedIn group, which has also the same name, Women in Process Mining. So you can also request to be part of this group, because in this group we announce the next events and what we are currently doing, and we have some polls and great stuff. So looking forward for anybody who is interested to join.
Wonderful. And this is a great segue to our favorite outro, because you've heard some fantastic things from our two wonderful guests, Gabriela and Josèphe, who have led you down the path of women in BPM, women in process mining. And I would encourage you to go find all the links to what we've talked about today in our show notes, and lots of more information about these two fantastic professionals and their initiatives, all at whatsyourbaseline.com, where you can not only get in touch with us as the podcast host today, but also get yourself a membership to the Women in BPM, Women in Process Mining groups, both of which I think are fantastic for our viewers who are female identifying, folks who would like to proceed in the business world, and find others to get inspiration from, and learn. Well, with that, I'd like to ask everyone, of course, to like, share, subscribe, all the good things you do with social things, and please feel free to leave us feedback or to reach out to us. We can also help get you in touch with both of our fantastic guests today. But until the next one, friends, I've been J.M. Erlinson.
Gabriela.
And I'm Josèphe, and passionate for processes.
And my name is Ronald Volt.
And we will see you in the next one.